everybody. Welcome back again to a little Austin Sports Weekend with Austin, the man here himself. It's time to talk about some more college football. We have already finished up week 9, heading into week 10. We're about to hit November and the downstretch.
The downstretch is definitely one of those stretches.
It has been it's been a really interesting year this year, hasn't it? I mean,
there's been surprises
parity. I think there's more parity in college football this year
than there has been in a while.
In a long time. But before we get started, thanks again for SevereTV.com for setting us up here in the studios. Thanks again for Autographs Plus for sponsoring us. Got a couple helmets here. Got a little Buffalo Bills, a little Josh, and a little Baker here on the Buccaneers helmets. So be sure and check them out. Christmas is coming up.
Happy Halloween, everybody.
Happy Halloween. And happy early Thanksgiving. I love Thanksgiving. I love to eat. But let's talk some college football.
Do you want to get our dumpster fire
Let's
of the
go
week?
ahead and jump on the dumpster fire first here.
Do you know what's scarier than any ghoul or goblin that could exist in any of those movies?
Interceptions on your favorite team. Oh no, people who've been watching us for a long time notice that every now and then we'll do a skit, and we did a turnover skit probably about 3 years ago.
It was a hit.
It was a hit. It was one of our best ones. We need to do some more skits, but it was talking about turnovers, just making fun of turnovers. You know, we had apple turnovers, cherry turnovers, and football turnovers. Well, this dumpster fire this week is about turnovers.
And Syracuse's quarterback Kyle McCord had a horror show of a day.
Syracuse is our dumpster fire this week. They're not the dumpster fire of the year, but man,
that was a stench, wasn't it?
They played
5 interceptions.
They played Pitt, who was a 4.5-point favorite.
Okay,
Pitt was favorite.
5 interceptions though.
He threw 5 interceptions in one game. 3 of them.
That's already bad enough.
No, 3 of those interceptions were pick sixes.
That makes it terrible.
3 pick sixes in one game. They lost by 28.
If they didn't have those 3 pick sixes, they'd only be down by 7.
It would have been a 7-point game in the fourth quarter, and they would have had a chance to tie it or go ahead.
But their quarterback was so turnover prone. Pittsburgh just basically they could just sleepwalk to the victory.
They did, yeah. Their defense scored 28. Their offense scored 13. The defense scored twice as many points as the offense. How many times have you seen that?
The
defense scored 28 for Pitt, and the offense scored 13.
Now that is a statement right there.
Or no, the defense scored 21. Sorry, the defense scored 21.
That's still more than the offense.
Still though, the offense scored 20.
That's still 1 point more than the offense.
The defense scored more than the offense in an entire game. That's just crazy for me. But that is our dumpster fire of the week. We didn't have Tennessee playing last week, so we can't cover their victory that they would have had, the victory over the bye week. But we did have some. We did have some good games there Saturday. We had Nebraska at Ohio State, a little bit closer than what people
That's a
were
suspect
thinking.
Football team, honestly.
Yeah, that was a little bit. Actually, Nebraska, if they didn't shoot themselves in the foot there towards the end of the game,
they probably had a chance to win.
They were driving and threw a pick, and they could have won the game. They could have very easily beat Ohio State. So it makes me wonder. That's how weird this year is. Indiana, everybody knows Indiana, mainly for basketball, but Indiana football has the most losses in Division I history in football.
Well, and we'll get to them later. And this year they've had a fantastic.
They hammered Nebraska, and Ohio State beat them before. So is Indiana better than Ohio State?
In terms of the point margin, it is.
So I don't know. That's a little weird. But Ohio State still got the victory. So there we go. We had number 12 Notre Dame at number 24 Navy. We knew this was.
I think my brain
overmatched a little bit.
I think I want to thank my brain for making the right choice here. This was just a mismatch.
Yeah, your heart went with Navy. Everybody would have, except for the Notre Dame fans. Everybody would love to see Navy stay undefeated and then go into the Army game. It would have been.
But the Irish were there and they put it into it.
51-14. That was over.
Yeah, that
So,
was just
that
a
didn't
dominant win.
Yeah. We had Washington at Indiana, like
Speaking
we were
of
talking.
Indiana.
Ranked number 13. People were picking Washington to upset Indiana. A lot of the experts picked Washington.
But Indiana
31-17. Dominated them, really,
How about the Hoosiers 8-0
for their best record in the history
of their Indiana football
of
team
Indiana
starting
football.
out?
8-0. That is tied for their best ever.
And if they win next week, they will have their best start in team history.
Mm-hmm.
And we're talking about a Hoosiers program that has the most losses.
They have the most losses in the history of Division I football.
It's amazing that how well this first-year head coach. I want to give him credit for this.
You have to.
Kurt
because
Signetti.
how many times have we said, coaching is 75% of the game?
A lot.
The same team last year, Indiana, that was what? What was the record
2 and
last
10.
year? So they were 2-10 last year. The same exact team,
But with a different coach.
but with a different coach. They might have picked up 2 or 3 new transfers or something. But basically the same exact team coming in this year with new coaching, and,
And
they're
they're riding-
8-0.
How about that?
So 2-10,
You got to feel good for
change
the,
your coach, 8-0.
You got to feel good for the Hoosiers, honestly. I mean, to have your team who hasn't really been relevant in a long time get to win this much, it really just shows you, honestly, that that program's on the right track and that
Most of your Power 4 teams are loaded with good talent.
Indiana is basically this is
They're
supposed to be a year starting from scratch.
They're probably a 2 and 3 star team.
Just like I said,
That's
this
probably
is
what they
supposed
are.
to be the first year. This is supposed to be a starting from scratch year, not an 8-0 start, top 15 team discussion in the playoff.
Nope.
But Indiana is a legitimate
Playoff
team
contender.
right now.
So
Okay, looking at their schedule,
I love it. Kudos to the team. Kudos to the coaches. I love it when somebody comes in and changes the program. I love it. We had number 20 Illinois at number 1 Oregon.
Oregon
I
is
knew Oregon was going to win, but I really thought Illinois would put up more of a fight. I
Oregon
think
just pants them.
Oregon's clicking.
Oregon's good. Do you think Oregon's good? I think Oregon's a good team.
Oregon was a little iffy starting out the first couple games.
Switch
because
around the offensive
their
line?
offensive line was suspect.
Switch around the O-line.
They switched around the O-line, and, dude, it worked. Whatever they did,
Maybe we should take a page out of that book.
whatever they did, it has clicked, and it has worked. They are a dominating team right now.
I don't think they're going to go through the year without losing a game unless they play either Indiana or Ohio State in
They'll-
the Big Ten title.
It'll come down to the Big Ten title game again. That will be a tough game, no matter who's in it. But I don't see Oregon missing the playoffs now.
Absolutely not. They're a lock.
So
They're guaranteed.
Even if they don't win the
Big Ten title, they're guaranteed a spot.
I still think they're a 7 or 8 seed, maybe a 5 or 6 seed. They may be the number 1 outside. I don't know, but they're definitely going to make the playoffs at this point. We had number 11 BYU at UCF.
Another team that's having a great surprise year.
Yeah, BYU. We didn't think BYU would be number 11 in the country. I didn't have BYU and Indiana on my top 15 bingo card.
But they're both
before the season.
approaching top 10 status, which
Yeah.
is incredible.
It's incredible. UCF has changed their coach
defensive
now.
coordinator. They've lost 5 straight games.
They lost
and,
5 straight games, so they fired their defensive coordinator
and Gus Malzahn. We haven't talked about you in a long time.
No, Gus
But-
took over the program, and we're expecting big things from Gus because Gus is a pretty good coach.
But he took Auburn to some decent heights during his time.
So he was doing play calling. So, but as of now, they fired their defensive coordinator,
And he's
he is
giving it up.
He is giving up play calling. So we're just going to see, and I'm pretty sure that's to save your job, which I don't much blame you. We had Missouri at Alabama. We have a
Shutout. We have a shutout. That's what we got.
yeah, and we had a little fake team at the beginning of the year. We can say that Missouri was pretenders.
They
we
were
had the
pretenders.
The contenders. This was a pretender contender game. The pretenders are
Missouri.
and the contenders are.
The Gumps.
Because even after losing to Tennessee and Tennessee showing some weakness in Alabama, they come back and they
Throttle
they
Missouri.
throttle Missouri 34-0.
0. It's been a long time since Missouri was shut out.
It's been a long time, yeah. And
They did lose their quarterback during the game,
Yeah.
but that doesn't really excuse you getting shut out.
They really haven't looked good this entire year. So even at that, they did lose their defensive coordinator from last year, and like we say, coordinator changes, coaching changes make huge differences. I didn't think that losing the defensive coordinator would affect the offense like it has.
But it has.
That defensive coordinator must have been a pretty big voice on the team because they've went drastically downhill this year. We had number 5 Texas at number 25 Vanderbilt.
Vanderbilt was close. They were close. But
27-24.
Texas got the upper hand and got the onside kick. That's what it took.
Yep.
And Texas survives Vanderbilt. I didn't think I would say that at the beginning of the year.
No. Now Texas took a commanding lead.
And then Vanderbilt scored a
And then
touchdown
Vanderbilt-
and then tried to onside kick it, like I said. Well, Vanderbilt, they're going to be an easy bowl team right now. But I wonder what
definitely
kind of
is.
heights Vanderbilt could reach. That's up to them,
No.
really.
Vanderbilt is definitely a bowl team because they're 5-3 now, and just taking a quick peek at their schedule, they've got Auburn, South Carolina, LSU, and then Tennessee.
2 of those are winnable.
The LSU and Tennessee will be tough games for them. The South Carolina and Auburn, as good as they're playing, they could very easily be a 7-win team this year.
Yeah, that's
I mean,
very
7-5
winnable.
for Vandy.
That's a high watermark.
That's definitely a high watermark for them. So I mean, kudos to Vandy. We've got a buddy that goes to Vandy out there too. So kudos for them. We had Florida State, the perennial or the monthly dumpster fire. We just had to give it to somebody else this week, but they're still a dumpster fire. At Miami, 36-14.
Florida State's a disgrace of a football team right now. Mike Norvell doesn't have a clue what he's doing over that team. And Miami just completely steamrolled them.
They had a lot of talent last year, and they lost a lot of talent, and they tried to fill it with transfers, and it just has not worked.
Nothing has worked.
There's no chemistry.
Let alone the talent,
the chemistry.
transfers. Let alone those transfers. Nothing has worked.
Nothing has worked for
They
them.
haven't scored over 20 points in a football game in the United States.
But kudos to Miami.
But yeah, Miami's rolling pretty nicely.
It's going to be interesting to see Miami play Clemson. They don't play each other in the regular season, but it's going to be interesting.
It's going to be a clash to see who gets that automatic.
That title. Both Clemson and
They're pretty
Miami
much rolling on to be in a playoff.
should be in the playoff because Clemson has surprised me. Honestly, they started out a little slow,
But
they're coming around.
you know, they've had the Georgia effect when Georgia beat Oregon 2 years ago, and then they went 10-2 the rest of the way that year. I
Yeah.
think that's the Georgia effect.
Yep. We had Penn State, Wisconsin. Big
game James.
He won this one. I know you were thinking maybe Wisconsin might get him, but they won this one. But we got a good one coming up.
We got a good one coming up. It's
got a
the
good one coming
ultimate
up.
special on a platter.
Yep. Our last top 15 game of the week was the biggest game of the week. LSU number 8 at
Goodness gracious, this
Texas.
this game was a tale of two halves.
I had LSU picked to win it. I really thought that they would, and I really think that they would have won it. But Texas A&M
pulled out
the running freshman quarterback trump card,
and they annihilated them in the second half.
I don't think LSU practiced for an option running quarterback.
I don't think they
It
did.
didn't look like they practiced for one because, I mean, you
And he
know,
just completely-
you know the kid's good, but is he that good to where you can't stop him? The surprise pop up into the top 15 this week is
Boise State. It's been a very long time since I've seen Boise up this high.
it's been a long time since we've seen the Smurf turf.
Oh, the good old Broncos.
The good old Smurf turf. They are 6-1, ranked number 15, taking on San Diego State. San Diego State is very bad this year.
And Boise State should take care of them.
They're going to.
Their running
I
back-
think the line's 23.5. but
Boise
I
State's
think
running back has won a bunch of Player of the Year votes.
He had a bad game last week and only rushed for 125 yards. That was his worst game.
He's going to be rushing for 2,000 yards this year.
He will run all over San Diego State. The line's 23.5. I'm pretty comfortable with that. All right, let's go ahead and jump into our Tennessee Vols coming up this week. Tennessee has I think about it, their third rivalry game in a row.
Yeah, how about that?
Florida, Alabama to Kentucky. That's really three of Tennessee's perennial rivals teams, and they had a back-to-back-to-back. Tennessee's coming off of a bye. It used to be the battle
for the beer jug.
for the beer barrel.
Barrel.
I wish they would do that again. I really miss the beer barrel, yeah.
But we can't have that, can we? We can't have that.
No, you could sell beers at the stadium for $15 a piece, but you can't go
let
for the
one
beer
team-
barrel. I don't know. Honestly, I've got a feeling that it actually may come back. I'm not saying that the beer barrel will come back, but I've got a feeling that the beer barrel may make a sighting or a showing here sometime soon. But Tennessee's favored by 16.5 right now. They were favored by 15.5.
I'm not confident in how the offense will start anymore. I mean,
No.
the past 3 games, they haven't scored in the first half.
I've got a feeling that they're going to cover that. I will pick them to cover that 16.5 point spread. I honestly think it's going to be closer to a 20-point game.
I just want them to, over the next couple of weeks, that they can just build their offensive
Again,
first half momentum.
It's just a feeling, and I do know a couple players, but it's just a feeling that this is going to be the week that Tennessee finds their offense early. I think Tennessee scores 40 this week.
You think they score 40 this
I
week?
think they score 40 this week.
Well, that would definitely be a refreshing change, honestly. But
I've
I think,
also heard just a small rumor we may see some freshman wide receiver this week.
Mike Matthews.
Little 5-star freshman wide receiver might do a little bit bigger role in this game than what he's done in some of the past games. So
But Joey Halsley has to call better plays.
I'm still
On the fence about.
on the fence about.
I'd hate to be the
our
negative
offensive-
person on this.
Our offensive scheme still worries me just a little bit.
I'd hate to be the negative person. Do you
Mm-hmm.
think my criticisms are fair here?
No, it's definitely fair. We are underachieving as an offense, but again, that goes all the way across the board. We've had dropped passes, we've had overthrow passes, we've had really bad offensive line play. So it's a little bit of a combination of
Our
everything.
left tackle is a turnstile.
Last week was better though. And Alabama, they actually played.
That's
now,
why I
it
like-
wasn't a good game.
Yep.
But it was a pretty good. I mean, it was.
That's why I said was, not is.
Yeah.
I said was. How funny how word changes make a sentence different.
Yeah. I said the offensive line didn't have a great game last week, but they had a better game. So we did see improvements in the offensive line. We did see improvements in the second half of the long balls. So, I mean, and I honestly think we saw the click. I think we saw the turning point in the second half of the Alabama game. So I'm actually thinking, and again, if nothing else, we can lean on our defense. Tennessee is the only FBS team to allow under 20 points in every game this season. They're only the 5th SEC team since 2000 to hold each of its first 7 opponents under 20. You want to know a really cool point that has nothing to do with it? The last 4 teams to hold its first 7 opponents under 20 points was 2003 LSU, 2011 Alabama, 2012 Alabama, 2021 Georgia. All 4 won the national championship.
We just have to have the offense pair up with that. That's important.
That is important. But the last 4 teams that had a defense as good as ours won the national title. I'm not saying we're going to win the national title. I'm saying we have the potential, if the offense gels, that we could go deep into the playoffs. But first of all, we have to make the playoffs.
Yep.
But I'm definitely up on them. One of the positive things, Gerard McCoy, the DB transfer that came in from
Oregon State.
is a Thorpe Award semifinalist, which means he is the final. He's in the final 15 for the DB of the year. How about that? Transferring in. So Tennessee, and also if you didn't get a chance to watch the Tennessee Hype video, their dark mode this week, if you hadn't had a chance to see the Tennessee Football Hype video for the dark mode unis, watch it. I think it's close to 5 million hits now that thing has got. It's one of the. They might have made more money off the Hype video this week than they will the football game. It's really, 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 really good. But I am picking Tennessee to cover this week. Go Vols. Let's jump into the other games. We got probably the game of the week is number 4 Ohio State at
number 3 Penn State. Big game, James.
This is at Penn State. Oh, the Ohio showing last week versus Nebraska worries me. But do I trust Penn State?
What has Big Game James given you in the past?
He never wins that game. The one to get you over the hump, he loses that game every year.
Will it be the same this year?
This is that game. I'm probably going to have to go Ohio State.
You want to pick the Buckeyes? I think I'll do that as well until he can prove to me.
Until he can prove to me that he can win this game, then you have to pick somebody else. Because other than that, no, this is Penn State's big game. This is it. They don't have any big matchups coming from this. So Ohio State's -3. I'm actually good with that. We got Duke at Miami. Duke's not a bad team this year. They're already bowl eligible. They're 6-2, but Miami at home
will win
and probably win pretty big. I think the line's 20. We got number 1 Oregon popped up to number 1 this week,
and against unranked Michigan
at Michigan. Michigan actually had a quarterback to retire this week because of concussions. So prayers for him that he is not affected too much by that. But yeah, Michigan, new coaches, new players, struggling. Oregon should win this pretty handily. I think the line's 14.5. Honestly, think that's pretty easy. That might even be an easy one.
Speaking of easy, Florida and Georgia, the annual Jacksonville game.
What they call it, the biggest cocktail party in the college football.
Yes, the biggest cocktail party.
Yeah, so Florida, Georgia playing in Jacksonville. Georgia's favored by 16.5.
I'll probably take it.
I'd probably take that too. Georgia scares me sometimes.
Because they're inconsistent.
They play up and down to their opponents. But Florida's pretty bad this year. We got Texas Tech, Iowa State. Yes, remember, Iowa State is in the top 15. They are undefeated at 7-0.
Will they
stay undefeated against Texas Tech? Yes.
I think so.
I think they will too. I think it's a 17-point game. We got number 13 Indiana. Number 13 Indiana did not go up this week, but they will be at Michigan State. Michigan State doesn't have a terrible team this year, but they don't have a good team either.
It's a first-year head coach, though, so
they're 4-4, and they're struggling to find their identity.
But then again, Indiana has a first-year head coach.
Indiana's favored by 8. I'm going with Indiana.
At this point, the Hoosiers?
At this point, I can't pick against Indiana
until they lose.
And I don't think they lose this one.
I don't think they do this one.
If they were going to lose one, it would have been against Washington last week, because Washington is a scary team. They could have snuck up on you and beat you. I don't think anybody's sneaking up on Indiana right now. We had number 10 Texas A&M
against South Carolina.
So Texas A&M jumps up.
Really rowdy and obnoxious.
South Carolina has a good defensive line, even though they're not winning a whole lot. They're 4-3 right now, but their defensive line is pretty good. Their defense as a whole is not good though.
Their defensive line can get a bunch of pressure though,
and they have the 115th ranked pass defense.
Yeah, that's an issue though. That's an issue. Do you think Texas A&M? If Texas A&M rolls with their backup quarterback or their starter, I think they win this one.
I think they win it. The line's only 2.5, which makes you wonder what do the pros know that we don't know? That it's only 2.5.
If they start that backup quarterback, they definitely will win.
Yeah. Or they might start the other guy, since South Carolina's got such a horrible pass defense, and see if they can throw, and then the second half again pop in the guy that can run and do the tandem.
Have that as your game plan.
But at this point, with them handling LSU, you got to go with Texas A&M here. We got Louisville at Clemson. Again, Clemson's up to number 11, so we've got 2 ACC teams inside the top 11, which I would not have picked at the first of the year.
There's 2 number 11s.
There's 2 number 11s this week. Louisville.
Couldn't they just decide who's number 11 and number 12?
No, apparently not. Louisville's 5-3. Again, they're not a bad team, but Clemson's on a roll right now. Clemson's minus 10.5.
I'll
So
take the Tigers.
I sort of like that too. That is college football for week 9 and week 10. We hope you had a little fun with us. Be sure to share us with your friends. Leave a comment or two. Tell us what you think. As always, go Vols. And we'll see you
Next week.